Hola todos, how we doing? You know, since we've been working on our projects and we've had a lot of guests in class, last week, either Monday or Wednesday, we did not get to Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is rather important because Chapter 2 outlines the plan that we are going to be using for our particular projects. So I figured we should probably have a video because I'm not going to have time to get into it this week on Monday or Wednesday because we have more guests. So I don't want to lose Chapter 2. I want you to have something also that you can go back and refer to on an ongoing basis. So Chapter 2, we are making a plan, okay? It's a strategic marketing plan that happens to focus on social media. Don't get too hung up by all this stuff, right? In general, your plan is going to have these components, right? We'll walk through each one of them. Now, in your chapter, even though we have a slide here, there's actually a specific blow-by-blow on what a situation analysis is. State objectives, all through, nice detail here. All right? So, to start, part 1 is what's the situation? Okay? For some of our companies, the internal and external environment, this is a page or two. This is a couple slides. Who are the competitors? Who are the customers? What trends are happening? What's going on? What is the company like? What's happening internal to the company? What's happening external to the company? And you do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And guess what? You're done part 1. Part 2, this comes specifically from the client and or work in conjunction with me. For instance, we had MasterPass come in on Wednesday. MasterPass was very, very clear what their objectives were. Insert the objectives here, and you're good. That's all you go. Gather insights to your target audience, part 3. So you know what the goal is. How are you going to get to those goals? Which segments, which consumer groups, which demographics, psychographics, behavioral characteristics are you going to go after? For instance, if we stay with MasterPass, it might be easier to have the phone as the way in. Get someone to download the app, get them to start using the app, and then go from there. All right. The heart of your plan is part 4. Part 4, gosh, why is this so sensitive? Let me just start them. Part 4 is when we have the goals, and based on the goals, which one or more zones are we going to use to accomplish those goals? Do you need social relationship zone? Do you need the social publishing zone? Do you need the social entertainment zone? You may or may not. Do you need the social commerce zone? You may or may not. Part 5, create and experience strategies with the zones. So in part 4, you're basically telling me which zones you're going to use, and in part 5, you're going to tell me how you're going to use the zones that you select. The experience strategy experience just means doing. What are you going to be doing per zone? Part 4, which zones and why? Part 5, what are we doing with the zone to accomplish our goals? That's all an experience strategy is. An activation plan is nothing more than a timeline. For instance, part 4 of the plan, you select 2 of the 3 zones. Part 5, you tell me what you're doing in those 2 zones. Part 6, you set a timeline on, are you posting twice a day? The first, you're going to start with AdWords. And then after 2 weeks, you're going to do social media listening. And after 4 weeks, you're going to do da-da-da-da-da. the activation plan is nothing more than a timeline, and it might have some numbers attached to it, depending on how much detail you get from your client. All right. And part 7, which is the last part, is manage and measure. Okay. Just detailing on what you're measuring, when you're measuring, and how you're going to judge if your use of the zones should be judged successful or not. Okay. Now remember, this plan is not a written paper. Almost positive it's not a written paper. It's just a PowerPoint deck that's very detailed. Don't worry about this at all. You know, perhaps when you leave Seton Hall and you're going to work full time, you might do some experiments. Here you're going straight to the plan. Now, in part 2, this is slide 18, by the way. In part 2, state objectives. Why are you doing this? This slide is some real good reasons for those objectives. Increase brand or product awareness. Improve brand or product reputation. Include traffic or visit or trial. Include PR. Boost your SEO. Customer sat. Customer support. Service. Lead generation. Could be for e-commerce kind of sites. Reduce customer acquisition costs, i.e. keeping people in your not megaphone and not funnel. Increase revenue. These are all very good part 2 reasons to why. Chances are your client is going to have the budget with you. You know, you may or may not. Don't worry about the various different types of. You've seen this in the advertising course that you had earlier. This is not new. Your budget will be determined by your goals, objectives, and your client. This is actually a very good example of a department store that used zone, and did not use a zone. If you want to template something, if you want to look specifically at an example, the back end of chapter 2 has a very, very good example. And for all your plans, you are not going to be changing an org structure to, this is beyond what you'd be doing for this class. So you don't have to worry about the last slide. All right, so that's it. I highly suggest that this right here, that's in chapter 2, we get our hands on that. We start wrapping our heads around these things. Many of you are going to have more clients in this week. You're going to start hearing your goals and objectives, and you're going to hit the ground running. I'll be in class tomorrow. If you have any questions, we can chat then. Thanks.